Hello and welcome back to Focus Atlanta. Thanks so much for continuing to watch. We're going to close out the show with Dr. Adam, and we're going to chat about heart health for women. Everybody says that the symptoms for women in heart disease are so different from men that sometimes we get lost in the shuffle. Can we start there?
It's a great question. Historically, we talk about men having this sort of crushing chest pain. It's not that women cannot have that. Women can have crushing chest pain, absolutely. But women can often also have some other signs that they need to be aware of because they may brush it aside. And we want them to be aware that really sort of a profound onset of fatigue. We all get tired. So I don't want anybody hitting their alarm in the morning, I'm tired, I'm having a heart attack, but sort of an overwhelming sense of fatigue that's building. This would not be a sign of a sudden heart attack necessarily, but could be the sign of underlying heart disease that needs to be evaluated. I don't have the energy that I used to have. I think it's also really important to know that heart pain radiates, so that while some people just have discomfort in their chest, women might have it more radiating or just in their neck, their jaw, going down their arm. So other parts of the body connected to the heart through the neurologic system, but not giving them the sort of obvious sign that it's cardiac pain. I also think that it's important to think about things like lightheadedness, cold sweats. So a lot of my female patients over the years have told me things like, Adam, I don't have the energy that I used to, kind of like the fatigue we talked about earlier. And I just want them to pay attention to this. Adam, I get a little, I think it's this indigestion, but a little pressure in my chest. And I would ask them, does it happen when you're sitting still, or does it happen when you move around? Oh, generally when I'm moving around. Those are important things to get evaluated by a doctor. I think one of the big mistakes that a lot of people make is they don't realize that they assume their symptoms are something that they can chalk off to something else. But when, as a doctor, we sit down, the first thing that we want to make sure is not the problem, is the heart. And we're really well trained to do that.
Sometimes when it comes to the heart, cardiac issues, we think that we don't have to worry about them because of our age. But can we talk a little bit about the age range of women who suffer from heart issues?
Another excellent question, because it actually gets to an important point, which is that a lot of people, men and women, assume that heart disease just exists when we are older. But there's some important cutoffs here. We say that premature heart disease, so for a person to know their family history, if you ask them, do you have premature heart disease? That means, is there a male relative, first degree relative, who had a cardiovascular issue before the age of 55? For a woman, it's, do you have a first degree relative who had a cardiovascular issue before the age of 65? So did your mom or a sibling, sister have a cardiovascular event before 65? Those are premature. Maybe it's that I'm getting older, but these numbers aren't really that far away from what I would consider to still be very middle age. If a woman comes into me and says, Adam, I'm 66 years old, I think they're middle age, but they have now entered the age of regular average heart disease in women. Below 65 would be premature, but even in their mid to late 60s, we start to get into the average pool of women with heart disease. However, please remember, a lot of this has to do with your family history. So we always say, know your numbers, know your blood pressure, know your cholesterol, know your blood sugar. Are you a diabetic or pre-diabetic? And I always add into that, know your family history. When you had your children, did the doctor tell you you had diabetes? As a matter of fact, Adam, I did. Or did you have a problem during pregnancy called preeclampsia, a problem with blood pressure? Adam, actually, I did have that. Both of those things would dial us in to be concerned about earlier premature heart disease in that person. So the question is wonderful. I would say that we really need to look at your family history before we can tell you. But if there's no family history, I would say we really start to pay attention sort of in that 50 to 55 age group for those risk factors, anticipating that it would take on after that. But family history, other things, considerably earlier in women.
Dr. Adam, thank you so much for making time for us here on Focus Atlanta. It was a pleasure to meet you.
It's such a privilege to be included. We really need to recognize heart disease, not just in men, but in women. And the thing I'd like to leave with is that most heart disease is preventable. The irony is it's also the leading killer in this country. I think that really speaks to how much opportunity we have to improve cardiovascular health in all people, in particular in women.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I can't close it out any better than that. Please take the opportunity. Dr. Rosenbluth had a website up there. Please take the opportunity to go visit, learn some more tips. Each little tip that we do to change our lifestyle, change our eating habits, all of those things matter when it comes to heart health. Please take the opportunity to learn a little bit more. And stay tuned for Focus Atlanta every week here on CBS Atlanta.